That's right, Aisha. The leaders of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, so we're talking about representatives from over 190 member states, will be gathering here in Antalya over the next week to discuss the future of the world's largest humanitarian movement. And so what's on the agenda? Well, topping it is the IFRC's General Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body of this 190-member federation. They'll be looking to elect a new president as well as new regional vice presidents. They'll also be convening to discuss their 2030 strategy. This is a vision that will bring the group into the next decade and beyond. And at the center of all this is the issue of migration. How do we better deal with this? There are more people today that have been forcibly removed from their homes than in any period of time since the end of the Second World War. There are millions of people throughout the world that are fleeing persecution, violence, disaster, all across the world. So they'll be looking at specific examples. Second is the issue of finding a consensus of better preparing the organization for external shocks. So we're talking about building resilience. They'll be looking at specific examples in Syria, in Yemen, and what's happening on the Myanmar-Bangladesh border. And the third issue, the third pillar of this new strategy is volunteerism. While there may be millions of people who volunteer for this movement, they'll be looking at ways of attracting new members as this federation moves forward.
Well, as you have already mentioned, how are the organizations under the IFRC plan to deal with a number of humanitarian crises like Syria, Yemen and Bangladesh?
Well, Aisha, we had a chance to speak with the president of the Turkish Red Crescent, Professor Kerem Kınık, and he said that aid organizations like themselves, like the Turkish Red Crescent, needed to adopt a more holistic approach when dealing with all this human suffering, humanitarian crises, and that by aid organizations, by just delivering aid, wasn't going to end human suffering or to end the war. There were many players out in the field, whether they were on the state level or at the NGO level. They needed to adopt a more common, a more integrated approach. Here's what he had to say.
They are acting alone like development agencies or a lot of disaster response NGOs or the institutions or the humanitarian agencies. This trilateral separate approach cannot elevate human suffering. In fact, so we need holistic approach. Why? Because we are, as the humanitarian aid workers, we are targeted at the hotlines, in front lines. So somebody must protect.